All righty. So welcome to your reading. Thank you for your patience. Let's just double check the audio. Good, good. Hello, hello. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Okay. So, anyways, I don't know if you've seen my stories, but I've had ever since I came back from America, um, I've had like big Wi-Fi issues. It used to work perfectly, and then now, like lately, I've been like using my hotspot on my phone for like all of my recordings because so right now, my friend who knows some, he's like studying IT and stuff. Like he messes some things, and I'm praying that that was a solution. But if not, I'll have to like reconnect to my hotspot, which is it's nothing you'll notice. But what happens is that like I'm doing this reading on Zoom, I'm like in my flow, all that, and then out of nowhere it just disconnects, you know. So I'm praying right now that whatever I just did, which was as simple as like just forgetting and deleting one network, because somehow there's like a duplicate of like the same network. It's complex stuff. It's not fun at all. But I'm hoping that somehow that did the job because I don't know. So, anyways, while it's everything is going well, let me open the clock. I forget to do that too often. So yeah, I mean, worst case, I'll have to if things aren't stable, I'll have to connect to the hotspot. But yeah, let's go ahead and share the screen. Wasn't it? Why is it doing this? Okay, here we are. So, very interesting. So Venus on your south node right now. Could be some karmic love coming into your life or something in that something favorable, good karmic payback. But okay, right off the bat, very airy chart. Yeah. Okay. Already lost signal once. Perfect. But I switched to, I'm just gonna delete this network. Forget. Okay. And then forget. No. Okay, so we have one network. So let's see if this one works. It works on my iPad. That's what the really annoying thing is that on my iPad everything works perfect. Um, Obviously Apple, this is Dell, but it's supposed to be like the best computer that exists, and it is in many ways. But now it's just acting like shit. But anyways, okay. So as I was saying, you have a wow. So okay, you have a grand trine between your ascendant moon. Your big three are a grand trine. So that is just like a mega power in the air realm. Air is the realm of thought, communication, networking, um, just it's about ideas, it's about freedom of expression, intellectuality, intellectualism, and so much more, so many more things. You Perspective, open-mindedness, all these things, right? Very, very um, cognitive. So to have, this means that like anything that like involves like they all feed off each other. So it's super good for any kind of career that's related to, or just anything in general. Like you'll be just a gifted communicator as like your Gemini rising. Your Libra sun is very interesting because it has a conjunction with Pluto, right? So usually Libras let's be honest, they can be like they can be pushovers, but like and sorry, when I get up, I don't even know if you see me. I think you probably do. But like the Libras that have we got a crystal that have Pluto rising. I've dealt with quite a few of them in my time, even recently. And they always tend to be like this superpower Libras, because Pluto on your sun, irregardless of what your sun is, it's going to add a level of Scorpio-ness to that, right? So when you have a sun in Libra conjunct Pluto 1 degree away, it is making you kind of like a Libra slash Scorpio sun, almost to that intensity. That's how powerful Pluto is, right? Now, what does that mean? It means that unlike, other Libras, right? Which I'm not saying you don't have any Libra traits. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, a lot of Libras have trouble saying no. They can almost give their identity away, give their power away too easily, have issues with boundaries. They want to please everyone until they realize that that's impossible, and they can be, quite codependent. But that's kind of, I would say, more at the, different Libra placements. The Sun, I haven't experienced as that because I've just seen so many Libra suns that are just like high business people, or even like I feel like they can really, Libra sun is one of those signs that it's a cardinal air sign, so it's like you can really be very very self-starting in any realm related to you know to ideas and to networks, and to kind of just like it's a very sociable, and having Pluto there makes it very powerful. So the first thing is you have to watch, is that it won't be easy. Like for some Libras, like I said, it can be easy to kind of push them around and tell them what to believe and keep them in relationships that are no longer serving them. But for you, it would not be like that. It would be way more like just that's a nice instance. Way more like kind of, yeah, just tough. Now also Pluto on the sun, it can definitely create an energy where let me pull one thing up. You can be a very like very intense, and almost like it can make one like obsessive, and have like great personal power, and like obsessive when they really find their life purpose, which in the fifth house for you could be anything from like children uh to creativity, right? So like whatever you deem as your creative purpose, which in this context, with the fifth house Pluto, there's this deep deep feeling from a soul level that this life was meant to be one that is lived for a deep, like you there's like a very deep feeling of like there's a very important creative purpose to my life, right? And so it makes it easier with the sun to rid yourself of unwanted people, and it can make a Libra way less tolerant of bullshit, because they feel like they have this great like mission to accomplish. But the big thing, having Pluto on your sun is transformation, right? So you're meant to transform, which a lot of times in a conjunction it's easier than it would be like in like a square or opposition. But there's still this energy where you're meant to transform and kind of rise from the ashes. Sometimes the father can be a little bit domineering, but really like you're here to really transform lots of parts of yourself. Now, um, you know, having so the Mercury, it's like, conjunct, it's outside combustum, it's in Libra too. So yeah, that's That's good that it's not combust. It's not within 5 degrees. So you're able to, be a very balanced communicator, someone who can really, get their point across in a way that is, not like really, able to see both sides of the story, right? Like kind of a peacemaker, a diplomat, um, just really good at putting other people at ease. And it's quite close to Spica. Or what degree is Spica? 23 or 24? I just forget it. Yeah. Oh no, no, it's 23. So it's close to Sappho. So yeah, that's like, very creative, but also sexual energy. Um, Also there's like a connection with Sappho and money. Like I think of like poetry also. So that's interesting. So we have that part. Then we have your Gemini rising, which is right next to Rigel, which is one of the best, a very very good wealth star. Um, so right off the bat, you're going to be someone who, and it's very close, yeah, who is gonna, Gemini risings, they keep their youthful experience appearances throughout life. That's one of the best, coolest things about Gem rising, right? Is that you stay looking young, right? Um, and you could see like why that would be, very positive. And it's not just the looks; it's also, from every area of life. Like just like a very very like I live like my girlfriend is this. So it's like very very fun, um, very curious about the world, very very curious about the world for sure, and they just want to experience life, right? So I think that the person with this placement, yeah, they definitely want to my hot, because I did it again, unfortunately. One quick second. Okay, so that should be good. So, anyways, yeah, with the Gemini rising, yeah, there's just that desire to kind of be to have fun, and to be curious about the world, and to just really really go out and just experience. Yeah, just experience, just curiosity. um a lot of Gemini risings, they talk a fuck ton. Like, I don't know how to say it, and having all that air would definitely make you a communicator for sure. um mm, yeah, so then being okay, so I guess I could talk about Rigel a little bit. So having it rising, it's just very good for kind of a quick rise in life. Really good fortune, riches. It's a wealth star. Lots of luck in terms of your action, luck for business, good fortune for business. Um, and yeah, it can make one like kind of sometimes like have to kind of fight to retain their spot. but it can also like kind of stimulate them, you know? And even in spite of like unhelpful aspects, like that you can have like just really powerful concentration in terms of meeting your goals, your objectives. Um, but it's not guaranteed, you know, if you're not cautious or you know, there's like a weak, you know, an attack of weakness, anything mental like that, then you know, bad things can happen. A fall from success can happen, right? But it's a really good placement. So then you know, being an Aquarius moon, you know, being an Aquarius moon is very much an interesting placement. And having all that air in general is very interesting because what can happen is that you will lack in other elements. Now, what does that mean to lack in other elements? Well, let me get rid of all this. I just want to see while I'm here if there's anything. Okay, wow. Oh, damn, you got that. And then this one is okay. Interesting. Oh no, wait, it's 11. Okay, you're lucky. Okay, so it's just Serpentis. You have Serpentis conjunct your Venus. So that's like a big thing, like, because like as a Libra, relationships are obviously like a big part of your life. And you know, when we look at advanced astrology, the fixed stars, asteroids, and you see Serpentis conjunct your Venus, it can kind of like the idea of power has to be really well understood for you because there's this massive risk of kind of the lower energy of power, you know, like dominating other people, all that stuff coming out, and you know, that just leading to difficulties overall, right? So the key here is to, you know, it's to find power within, right? It's to find that internal power that doesn't just go away, that's not fleeting. And from that, um, you are able to have a set of values and morals that come from within you, and you judge your life based on those. You judge other people, not judge, but you know, you create boundaries with other people based on those. That's very, very important. But yeah, like with the Aquarius moon on the midheaven, you know, you definitely want to make a big mark, like is it like kind of very humanitarian placement. And you know, it's in the ninth house also, so that suggests that you know, it makes someone very idealistic, someone who wants to, you know, go on like lots of adventures, very Sagittarian energy, you know, in the sense of like traveling, finding higher purpose, higher truth. It kind of lifts the mind. There's an emotional need to like you know, be in the future in terms of your ideas, like imagination, all that. Very spiritual placement too. You know, you're gonna have a real emotional attraction, emotional need to kind of like be looking for truth and be traveling and finding different potentials that can exist. You know, like I'm a Sag moon, right? So it's different, but like for example, like I'll watch stuff. It's different but similar. Like I'll watch stuff that like I don't believe in at all, you know? Like I watched some podcasts like this I guess this morning 'cause I wasn't asleep. It was this just I'm just gonna be honest, it was just like too like it was just like very stupid. Like I don't know. Like it was just these two guys from Arizona who probably like went to like who probably like frat guys. It was a very small podcast, you know, but like I just kind of like I don't know, like from it I'm just like wow, it's just like even within the US, there's just like so many different cultures, you know, like the Scottsdale culture, um, you know, like even within a state, you know, how there's Indian reservations within that same state, um, and like lots of Latinos, you know, just like, and then, you know, it's just like, really wanting to experience different worldviews, because through those worldviews, you learn more about the totality of everything. And it's kind of interesting to think like, wow, like, you know, when you look at your own life and you see different people from different places, and just thinking like, holy shit, like, you know, if I came from this background and kind of followed what I was supposed to do, like I would most likely turn out like this, you know? And that's the beauty of astrology, is that it can get us out of that, and it can get us into our authentic selves. It can help us open those doors that can lead us to our authentic selves, right? Like, you know, there's the version of us obviously that is, you know, the kind of conditioned, whether it's by society, by family, by a mix, you know. And then there's that authentic being, right? And it, you know, as we get older, I mean, it's different for everyone, but some people are so far away from their authentic being. Some people are closer. And you know, the closer you know, the more inner child work you do, which your fifth house sun is really about, also inner child work. And in fifth house sun people, like they're here to have a little bit of fun, right? But you know, the more you do that, the better it is for you. And yeah, like making your, like your the things you do for fun, your work is like, definitely, I think fifth house sun people like can really benefit from that, because you know, they're meant to be able to kind of have that that freedom, especially with the Aquarius midheaven and moon and part of fortune there. You're really, you know, like the ideal for you would be a situation where you had freedom to explore. And you know, with the Aquarius, it's Aquarius moons, it can be different, a tricky place in the sense that you can feel way more secure with logic rather than with emotions. And air and moon in general, you know, and just having that much air, it can make you kind of like, it can make that difficult, you know, it can make emotions difficult. Now you have air and water in your chart, right? So you don't have any earth or fire. So that's interesting. Um Now I think Aquarius moons, the thing that's so fascinating about them is that they can be so radically obsessed with like a cause. Let's say it's like saving whales in, I don't know, just random, right? Or like like, you know, working for like a, you know, like a nonprofit, or just devote, like becoming like a classic one, like becoming like a lawyer, just for the fact, like for the, you know, like for the purpose of helping out a certain cause that they are so tied to. But then in their personal relationships, they can be very, very aloof and kind of like, you know, distant. But really, it's not that they don't have emotions, it's that they need to feel that magic that is Aquarius, needs to feel enlivened, and they need to have freedom, because it's the sign of the genius, right? So it's a sign of the person who thinks differently. And it's not that every Aquarius moon I know is like that, in the sense that they you know, like I can think of many Aquarius moons who struggle, who like, you know, like are not like, we're very extroverted, right? Because it is a masculine sign. But yeah, it can definitely be beneficial to experience life with, like, especially in relationships, like to have freedom to express your unique authentic self, and to just continue to look for that. um because like there's also this very rebellious side to an Aquarius moon, where they're going to want to like do the road less traveled, and you know, they don't want to just be labeled and put inside a box, right? So it's very interesting, but it makes for great leaders in my experience, because when you think about not being led more by logic as opposed to emotion, like great strategists, great leaders, you know, you don't want to be emotionally led in certain parts of life, right? um you know, even though I'm a Sag moon, I can really resonate with this in my human design, especially, and just, you know, not being such an emotionally it's like being you can be very sensitive still, but not led by your emotions, right? Um, Now your moon is squaring Uranus, so your moon's in Aquarius and squaring Uranus. So that is very and square Mars. And opposite Jupiter, so we got a T square. Or let's see actually, because Mars. No, yeah, it squares Chiron. Wow, so lots of difficulty here. So it squares Chiron on one side, and then it squares Uranus on the other, and then it squares Mars with Uranus, and then it's opposite Jupiter. So it's a grand cross. Um, so yeah, I mean, in essence, Moon square Chiron speaks to someone who has, you know, especially Moon in Aquarius. A lot of times they would have experienced their mother as being quite emotionally erratic. And I also have to say I should probably talk about Moon trine Sun before I go much further, but that's a really good placement, right? But you know, so let's do that, and then we'll get into like the difficult placements of the you know, because most of your aspects in your whole chart are Moon, which is the most difficult, like the most important ones. But Moon trine Sun is basically like the idea that if your Sun is in your Moon are two captains of the ship that is you, that they'll both be going in very like similar directions, right? Like obviously Libra and Aquarius, Aquarius, Aquarius get, you know, they get along very well. Um, so it makes one, you know, quite easygoing. Usually, like the parents have like you know, usually they're not divorced usually, and they have usually like a pretty similar worldview. Um, so there's not this kind of like whole difficulty with like bringing these two opposing worldviews together. And yeah, it can make you really feel like your emotions contribute positively to your life. But you have to watch out for that tendency to kind of like sit back and let things kind of come to you too much. Like it can make you very good at that, but like not relying on that. Um, it's good to be assertive and ambitious, you know, but you know, it does create that kind of continuity between the feminine and the masculine. And you also have the same thing with having your Mars and Venus, which is the other feminine masculine planets. Like it's like two yin yangs in astrology: Mars, Venus, Moon, Sun, and both of your Venus and Mars are in Scorpio. So it's interesting. So yeah, with the square to Chiron, that's just like, you know, so yeah, the moon in Aquarius, yeah, like emotionally erratic mom usually, or mom that was like very like maybe inconsistent, or just like they experienced the mother as being kind of like yeah, just wavering in terms of like the level of just them in general, just being kind of like random people, you know, eccentrics. But the moon square in Chiron can speak about you know, issues with your mother, kind of suffering and woundedness there. It's usually the mother. Sometimes in some cases, like my chart, it's the father. Um, but yeah, it can be like feeling misunderstood by the own mother, or whatever parent represents the moon. I always have to add that in there. The more nurturing parent. And you know, it's all about learning to rise above your pain. Um, and then that enables you to be someone who can really help other people. And to have Chiron in the 12th house, the pain is about like these deeply buried wounds, right? Spiritual wounds. And it can make you a spiritual healer, but it can be like very overwhelming pain. Um, and when you explore the depth of it, it can lead you to all kinds of like inner discoveries that make you a spiritual healer. And in Taurus, I think of that more as like someone who who might, 1 second. Yeah, who might like there might be wounding around self-esteem. So it's self-esteem, seeing yourself clearly, all that jazz. Okay, where did this thing go? So yeah, I mean, I think with Chiron the 12th, also it's yeah, I think the idea of mysticism is very, very attractive. And it comes very naturally. It's like a conscious choice. Because like the 12th house is the house of Neptune. It's like the house that connects us with the realms beyond time and rational mind thinking. So it's very important for you with Chiron the 12th to heal that pain, to find methods to develop like the right brain kind of intuition, imagination, and yeah, that kind of connects you to that deep soul healing, and very, very deeply intuitive person, Chiron the 12th, and a probing mind for sure, and it gives you like the gift of like that inner knowing, and you can even find like gain conscious awareness of like past lifetimes. So yeah, it's really Chiron 12th house people are here for a big reason. They're here to heal others, and it's not always easy, but once you get there, it's a lot easier. And yeah, like in Taurus, it could be like thinking you're not beautiful also. Having difficulty identifying like what's right or wrong, and it's kind of Libra problems too. So it's like all about, you know, yeah, really just like kind of finding what really grounds you, and finding that true self-esteem, that true identification. So yeah. Um I mentioned like yeah, another thing with your like with your Aquarius moon, the ninth house, midheaven, you'll want to do something career-wise that will enable you to really have like a strong contribution to society. And you'll want also to have a lot of freedom within your career, and you'll really, especially with your Uranus in the sixth house, I have that too. So you might, work better as like an entrepreneur, someone that's doing their own thing, or who can kind of like, has freedom in their life, even if it's a job that gives freedom and that helps you learn about like deeper wisdom through your job, right? Like for example, my job, I'm learning about deeper wisdom by each client I talk to, and just learning, getting deeper and deeper into my craft. So yeah, having Uranus in the sixth with Venus, Mars, we get into that in a sec. All right. So then the North Node, a lot of my charts based on the idea of the North Node, being in Virgo in the fourth house is very significant because, on one level, you you definitely want to like you've been the dreamer before, like there's lots of been there, done that when it comes to the archetype of the dreamer, and it's in a tenth, so it's like it's really about like in this life, like there's like a real need to ground your energy, which is difficult when you have little earth. So I know like an advanced soul when I see one, when their north node has no supporting energy whatsoever. Um, I mean, yeah, Venus trines it, but which would would be very good for relationships and for, well, we'll talk about that. It's Venus conjunct Serpentis, so that's like really difficult fixed star. But with Venus, it might be a little bit different. Um, but yeah, there's definitely something. One sec, where did it go? Oh. Yeah, there's definitely like a need to kind of like have like to not just like have like the ideas, but really like to like in terms of like your own spiritual journey. Like there's this big need to dive deeper into the actual practical basis, but also just like the like the home life, like the idea of like um North Node fourth house, I think of as someone who's meant to really dive into their emotions, and to try to like create like a stable home environment, right? So that's important because it could come very naturally for you to kind of favor the career over that. So one quick second. Mhm. Okay, one second. So Venus and Mars in the sixth house in Scorpio. Also, before that, your Mercury that I talked about in Libra is unaspected. Let's just double check that. So that can make a big time talker and someone sometimes who might say things like, especially the Gemini rising, who might be a little bit like, what, what did that person just say? So it's good to know that. But yeah, with Mars and Venus in Scorpio, so this is adding a whole new energy. And I think what's interesting about it is that having all that air, and then having these Mars and Scorpio, just such a strong energy, that and being having Pluto on your sun, it can make you feel very Scorpio. Um, which is so that adds like the intuition, and that adds the empathy, that adds that spirituality and that depth, right? So like if you were all air, for example, right, you would just be like not someone really capable or desiring like real deep emotional conversations and deep spiritual change. But having the Mars in Scorpio makes you very powerful, not someone you'd want as an opponent in any realm of human experience. And someone who's a truth seeker, someone who sees through the BS. You you can really never. It's the strongest placement for that for Mars with Aries, but they're different, and this is really strong in the sense of spiritual kind of psychological strength, right? So hold on. Yeah, so it's very strong in the sense of psychological strength, spiritual strength, and yeah, I mean it's just it's an interesting one. So that noise, no idea. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So yeah. So having that is definitely an advantage. Because now there's this level of there's this level of depth, right? As I've been saying. Now in the sixth house, Venus there, trying the node. I think that, and we'll get back to the moon aspect, but I want to go over this first. It's just gonna, it goes back to this whole theme of power, right? Um, and how wrong that can go unless it's it's found from within first. Um, because there can be the whole power, like a big theme that can show up with this kind of chart is power struggles in relationships, fear of abandonment that kind of gets projected onto the partner, coming on too strong. So none of that's easy, obviously, right? None of that's easy. Um, None of that is easy. But, having all these planets there, especially Uranus conjunct Mars, I think that makes one like have this like very volcanic high energy, and it's not and it's very focused in Scorpio, but then Uranus makes it very unconventional, right? So it's like a big risk taker kind of energy, maybe attracted to like dangerous sports. So there's a big need to like learn. It's like having a Ferrari, but needing to learn to really like learn to drive it, or like a carriage that's like has 9 horses, but like how do you control all 9, right? So discipline is needed. So something like martial arts would be like amazing, right? Or yoga. But it also gives great courage, and it gives great courage to stand out and be different. Um, Now in the sixth house, Uranus there. Like I said, I have it there. I don't know if I said that, but it gives someone who has an unusual kind of routine, right? Like it's not just like be right back. You can still hear me. It's not just it's not just like anything that will be appealing to you, you're someone who I guess you could say 1 second. Change. Pants are too hot. Also like having like moments of like just like pause, you know, just like pause, feel into, reflect. Things just come to me oftentimes when I do that. But okay, so I'm back. So yeah, I mean Mars in so yeah, the Uranus sixth house person, yeah, they like for example, it's like I go to extremely late, right? That's like a good example of someone who has this type of placement. Um, but I still make it work. That's the thing. It's like with your Virgo North though, you're trying, like even if your routine is unusual and you're kind of like your health, it's like still important for you to like make it work, right? So like for me, for example, like I go to bed really late these days. I wake up late, but I still make sure to get my workouts in. I still make sure to eat, healthy. get enough sleep, right? Things like that. Enough daylight, right? Even though I'm more of a night person. So it's like, even if it's not super like conventional, it doesn't mean it's bad. Um, so like the conventional idea of Mars in the sixth and Venus in the sixth, like, it's really good for like work, and kind of like approaching daily life with this real vigor. Venus in the sixth will make you absolutely love pets, and Vertex also, you can really like get like you can gain a lot spiritually from pets. Um, which is pretty cool if you think about it. Um, but and I have it too there, and I definitely like have a really, really special connection with my babies, as I'm sure you've seen. Let me get this out of here. I want to try some. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of like Mars and success also can definitely be someone who will fight for like in their workplace will be very competitive. In terms of health, I think that it's very good for having like a routine and being active daily on a day-to-day basis. Like I have my Venus and Mars in the sixth house for the if you look at it from Placidus, and like yeah, it's very good for like the kind of day-to-day, and like the Venus, it makes you like really want to have it makes you really want to have, I guess you could say, um it's very good in terms of like not luck, but just it makes someone have like a very kind of like chill like work environment. But love is a very interesting area for you. So first of all, Mars and Scorpio is like a passionate lover, someone who wants, and Venus and Scorpio, so it's like really wanting to combine. It can be very dramatic also. So in that area of life, it can be very dramatic, very strong sexual urges. Um, Venus conjunct, one sec, Serpentis, is definitely not easy because it's one of the most difficult stars. So you have to have like an exact conjunction with um a planet. Um so to have Venus like right on Serpentis is tough, right? It's tough, and it adds more to that whole idea of the power struggle that I was talking about, and how if you don't, do shadow work and go within yourself and find kind of that. Here, 1 second. Okay, it's back. So yeah, like there can definitely be difficulty here, right? Like Servantess is not fun. Um, but at the same time, it can be very, very good for the esoteric. Um, so it's just like one of these stars that there's deep wisdom potential, but there's also potential for like really hitting off and kind of exhibiting some of the lower energies of Scorpio. So Venus conjunct it. It can create lots of jealousy, especially towards like other females, or yeah, in your case, other females. It is good for business, for gain, and you have Rigel, I said already. Um, you do also have to watch out for like like poison, like kind of just like you have to watch out. Like, don't just be like trying fucking different substances that you don't know what it is. Like you have to really be careful with that kind of stuff. Um, so it actually makes it really difficult for uh kind of domestic affairs, if you will. And I think that the snake, it does serve, this does represent like power, wisdom, kind of the Kundalini energy. Um, it definitely can make one hyper aware. So it definitely comes it definitely like, yeah, it's like love life can be hell, or if you, for example, dive deep into like your shadow, it can be very rewarding. And that's kind of like Scorpio Venus. They can love really intensely, really quickly, and like be very dramatic, be very, especially with Taurus Chiron, there can be some insecurity. So if you're insecure, let's do with your ascendant, if it has any hard access, yeah, it's where I had a feeling just based on, oh no, it's not actually. That was your midheaven. Um, but yeah, it's all favorable aspects to your ascendant. So that's good. But I mean, besides, opposite Neptune, which, on the descendant, a whole bunch of stuff to talk about with that. But basically, yeah, I mean, you just gotta watch out for like self-esteem getting in the way of that. Now, with Neptune on the descendant, this is very, very important because that is the ultimate rose-colored glasses in love syndrome, right? So it can create someone who doesn't see things for what they are. And every relationship has the pink flower, whatever, pink cloud phase. So with Neptune in the seventh, it's particularly difficult because it can be so hard to have clarity. And I'll give you the classic example of the Neptune seventh house person. And well, before I say that, like, the healing is to take your time with relationships, to not jump into things too quickly, to feel your way, to have like a very like earthy or very solid friend who you can like really be like, look, like what do you think? Like get their opinion. And you might be married. You're born 78, so you might be married and have figured that out. And in that case, like, nothing in astrology is bad or good. It's just, this is just something that has that potential. But then on a higher energy, it creates a very, very spiritual, romantic type of energy, right? But there's just the potential for, energy vampires seeping in and that kind of stuff. And then that getting in the way of your full um aspirations in terms of the full embodiment of your personality and your dharma. um so mhm. So let's see. So the ascendant, yeah, I already talked about that. So yeah, the midheaven's part of that grand trine, so career gets, it's very good. But then midheaven, it's squared by Venus and Mars. So that's just like how like love can get in the way of career. But like with love, as I was saying, um it's important, like if there are any abandonment issues or any just fears related to that kind of area of life, to kind of get past them through whatever work, therapy, whatever it takes. Higher awareness of when you have reactions synonymous with the lower Scorpio energy of like, I must control. I can't lose control. If I lose control, I'm weak. I'm unlovable. These kinds of ideas, right? One second. Hold on one sec. All right. So, yeah. Um, so yeah, the energy in general with love is very much like that. Like the Neptune thing is a big, 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 big part of it. There's a lot of other things too. So for one, um, for one, you're going to be someone, typically who has a very high sex drive, as I said. Like Mars conjunct Venus already is a high sex drive, and Scorpio, come on, um, can really fall very quickly, very intensely, very passionately, very, very fast, which can be hard, because other people aren't always down to match that. So it's like the need is for someone who can see through that, and also to just learn to have a more tempered energy in relationships, because with all that air, another big thing with having too much air is learning to listen. Now, I'm not saying that that's something you don't know how to do, and I would also say it's the same thing with like just lots of like fixed in general is like on a deeper level. It's a lot, you don't have that. But that's more of like stubbornness. I'm just saying physically, like people with lots of air like this, they just like any job that like requires communication, like you'd be great at, right? But you also have this kind of this depth to you, so it can combine very, very strongly, right? The Scorpio and the Libra can combine very strongly with depth and also sociability, and being able to kind of like be down to have, like, for example, the small talk and the deep talk, right? To have a foot in the spiritual and in the human world, right? And have each benefit each other. But with the love stuff, Venus, it's not making any hard aspects, but it does conjunct Uranus. So that's going to make someone who, at the same time as everything else I was saying, is going to need. So the Mars one actually first is very good for assertiveness. It makes one really want to like share their share adventures with others, with their lovers, and it's actually a very encouraging energy, but it can create lots of like very high expectations in love life. So it's important to like have your life purpose locked in, so that you're not putting you're not trying to create God out of someone else, another human. That's a disaster for that's a recipe for any relationship to end, to just be a disaster. But and also just like that Scorpio energy can be quite possessive, but then so that's split with that Aquarius energy, right? And that's the Moon square Mars, right? And Moon square Uranus is basically like the Scorpio part of you is very much about, and even Moon square Venus, like 10 degrees, yeah. It's very much about like how there's one side of you that's all about freedom, that's all about like I need my space, I need to do things my own way, I need to individualize. And then there's another part that's a lot more like wanting that deep, deep, deep bond. Like I always call it like two souls merging and becoming one, transformation. Like that Scorpio is like very intimate, right? So it's like, how do you juggle those two balls? That's tough, right? I would say it's a mix of both, right? A mix of closeness and a mix of space. It could even be like a long distance relationship, or a relationship where you guys like, like sleep in separate apartment, like don't live together, or like if you do live together, you have like different room or rooms, like I don't know. I always thought like the coolest thing would be, of course, it takes a lot of money to be able to do this, but to have like, one room that's kind of like a joint room. But I really believe in the idea of like, it's very Aquarian, but like the idea of having your own room, and that kind of being your safe space, kind of just like your energy. Um, but it could be like that, and this could also just be a metaphor, right? But it could be like that, what mixed with like, yeah, having like a place for joint space, but then not the pressure of having to always, you know, be with that person, or just like, you're like Aquarius moons can like definitely have long, or maybe like not long, like maybe they live like an hour away or something, or 30 minutes away, 2 hours away, whatever, that kind of like relationship. They like see each other like on weekends or something like that, or like a few days a week, and then they have time apart for the energetic reset. So then that's one way to meet both. Or you just understand that there's two very differing parts, and but also the Mars conjunct Uranus is going to make you really want to, it's actually going to like kind of be with team Aquarius, right? It's going to actually make you more unconventional in terms of your tastes of who you're attracted to, and it's going to make you um just really also like determined to be recognized as an individual within your relationship, not define like you don't want to be in a relationship that's like like the relationship defines you. Like it's like like some couples, it's like they're just one. Like I think of my Finnish friend, him and his girlfriend like are just like one fucking person. And like I know some people think that's all cute and stuff, and like I have nothing against that. My Aquarius side is just like, yeah, like like we came, like not like grossed out, just like not for me, but I don't know. I guess some people can do it. To me, it feels very invasive and very bizarre. But I understand that I have parts of my chart that make me say that. But I also have proof of divorce rates, proof of so many things that leads to an argument that the like by having energetic breaks with even someone you could love the most, and just having like a few days where you spend away from them every once in a while, even when things are going well. I think that is one of the most powerful energetic things. The more I learn about energy, the more I see that to be true for relationships, resets, right? Think about it. Like if you're with someone, friend, family, whatever it is, lover, whatever, all the time, you start to see the negative parts of them. And if you can spend a few days away from them, you start to like see, like actually like feel yourself in your own energy, and then that's only through that you realize what they bring you, right? But when you're so used to it, it can be very difficult to see that. So that is very important for you to really feel recognized as an individual, and to have lots of freedom. And you can also get really bored and restless in very traditional relationships. So you need that spontaneity, and intellectual stimulation, right? So that's really important. So it would matter less. I'm not saying looks wouldn't matter, because obviously sexual dynamics are very important for the Scorpio, but like for someone with that much air, there needs to be like that intellectual connection, or there's no chance, especially the Aquarius moon. And Aquarius moon will, yeah, they'll be down to date someone that's like completely just unconventional in terms of like what like anti-tradition, even like to the point of like rebelliousness. But like they don't give a shit about the culture. Like my old friend who became a Jehovah's Witness, sadly, but he was great guy, but got brainwashed. Really really weird. But he's an Aquarius moon that I can think of who he married someone completely different than him. From like a completely different background. So and I remember he was always really fascinated with women from different places, not like in a player type of way, but just in the sense that like he just liked to like hear their stories. You just like to hear, and that's very Aquarian, very Sagittarian. So and you have your moon in the house of Sagittarius in Aquarius, right? So yeah, your actions will be very motivated by your instincts. And learning to trust those instincts is key. But a big part of that is learning to get out of your head. You're definitely a passionate warrior, as I keep saying, and it's about getting that energy out. So like having that workout routine that just works for you is like it could be very key. Oh yes, I just got a text about human design. Um, but anyways, yeah. So Mars doesn't really do much. I mean, Mars also, because they're exactly conjunct. Yeah, Mars, I already talked about the Mars Uranus. So back to the moon, moon square Mars. So that is another one where it's like you need to work out. You just need to have like a something that makes you sweat, because that can make someone very quick tempered, intolerant. Like they can just snap like out of nowhere. And in Mars and Scorpio, whoo, it stings. It fucking stings. And it can make someone like irritable, impatient. I've seen it, you know. And it can really have a bad effect on relationships because like it can just like be these unconscious things that you didn't even know pissed you off that just come, and you're just like, what the fuck? Why am I so fucking pissed? Like, where did that come from? I didn't even know I was that mad about that. That's why that deep kind of that deep exploration is so powerful, right? And yeah, so learning self-control and channeling your energy in the right places is very important. And then also moon opposite Jupiter, that's about like self-indulgence, and potentially like going over the top with with different things. Um, so there you have to really watch out for like getting lazy, right? Like getting too comfortable. Um, some people with that, I've seen them like have like kind of like spoiled, like having been spoiled as kids. So yeah, so that's very important. Hmm. Just eating this heartburn. I never use it, but got a rare heartburn today, probably because I ate fucking pizza last night. Um. Anyways, yeah. So just people who have that sometimes can have difficulty finding the motivation if they've had a golden spoon, silver spoon. So yeah. And it can also be like with the South Node and Pisces, like lacking faith in yourself. And in this life, you really need to like embody that and go for it, and find moderation in your life. Um, yeah, Moon square Uranus. I mean that's just like one of the most, the two most important aspects in your chart are Mars. Uranus is making very important aspects, right? Venus conjunct Uranus, or Mars conjunct Uranus, which is exact, and Moon square Uranus. Um, and of course, Sun trine Moon, and that grand trine is super important, obviously. But yeah, but Moon square Uranus, I think of it as like how one can kind of swing back and forth, be very like erratic, um, and almost stubborn in their efforts to kind of stand out. They can be so rebellious that it's like almost like too rebellious. It's like, why are you are like what's the point of this? It's like a rebel without a cause, but like taking too far. Like to try like trying so hard to stand out from the crowd that they're doing stuff that's a little bit like it doesn't even fit their authentic self, right? So it's really about tapping into your intuition. Um, and also it could signal someone who just moves around a bunch. So that might have been a theme from childhood. Um, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think just like emotionally, psychologically, there's like this compulsive need for stimulation. Would be the best way I could put it. And it can be difficult in relationships because you're always needing like new grass is green on the other side, that kind of vibe. So just like, and we've seen that in your chart. So it's just like it's so important for you to like be happy with what is and to accept the imperfections that some people have. Um, but you'll be very lucky with the Venus trine nodes, North Node, that your lovers will be very fated, and that they will send you in the right direction. So that's good. That's good for sure. But yeah, it can cause issues with like the family if they're like a rebellious family. It could have caused, some issues just in that back and forthness, like swinging from one side to the other, one extreme to the other, is how I see it. and it can make someone, kind of like upset others with like odd behaviors and lacking tradition, like lacking respect for tradition, excuse me. So yeah, but it's also very inventive. It's really good for like things like psychology, entertainment. Very entertaining personality. Like, but you need something that's like once again a career that really is stimulating to you. Also like being like a homemaker is very good because the moon is homes and Uranus. So being a homemaker, would allow you to express that kind of unique talent. Um, and yeah. Okay. So yeah, and then moon trine Pluto. I mean, that's just like once again, Pluto is conjunct the sun trine the moon. So, that's just like great leadership skills. Someone who's very quick to get to the point, um, and who understands like the undercurrent of what really truly motivates people. And also with Sun conjunct Pluto, you are very, very, Pluto's the generational kind of like sun sign, as I put it recently in one of my articles. So having your sun conjunct it means that you're very tapped into the kind of zeitgeist. Like you are like your sense of self is like almost like a symbol for the current zeitgeist. Okay, so Jupiter third house in Leo, gifted communicator, someone on a very 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 benevolent, very fun loving like that. That's like a great placement. Jupiter and Leo, they're very generous, and they're very very smiley. It's a great Jupiter placement. And third house, someone who's really able to like express themselves really, really well. So they're a very gifted communicator, very gifted thinker, which you've seen already. Saturn in the fourth, that would have created like restrictions in early childhood. Um, maybe not having feeling like as supported as you would have liked early in life. Maybe sometimes it's coming from like a poor family or just not feeling like you had like that firm footing in life when you started out. But the goal is to like build that solid foundation up based on your own hard work, right? And then you want to have like a home that's like a very, very solid base. And maybe that wasn't the case. I don't know. I see differing kind of energies. So Black Moon Lilith in Cancer, I would say like that's just like you at your lowest vibration is about there's the potential to kind of shut down and escapism and like kind of like the whole cancer crowd that crawls back into its shell once it gets hurt. And also playing like the victim, using emotional manipulation, that kind of stuff, which would come along with, that's that Scorpio energy, right? Guilt tripping people, that kind of stuff. Okay, so Juno is in the eighth house in Capricorn, so you may be attracted to older, if you're attracted to men, I can never assume, older men who are powerful people, and who can provide a sense of security, but also a sense of real deep intimacy. But some people, someone who's definitely like legit, in terms of society and what they're here for. It doesn't mean rich like gold digger. It just means someone who really like makes a contribution and cares about what they're doing. Now, Ceres is also an eighth house, so you're nurtured by the occult. You're nurtured by, the kind of deep dives. Like your Scorpio Mars wants you. It pushes you to dive deep into your own death, rebirth, and transformation, and into your own kind of like shadow. So you're nurtured by anything related to esoteric, anything related to psychology that can get you deeper into yourself. And also, you you feel very nurtured, and you help others reach their ambitions, and you feel very nurtured when you reach your own ambitions, right? Um, yeah. So and like also like there's like a feeling of deep nourishment when you feel when you're able to access these deep kind of buried emotions and high sexuality, like very deep vulnerability. And then Vesta and Palace, I think these are the last two. Yeah. Um, those being where they are right on the descendant, at least Palace, Um, I think that will make, in Sagittarius also, right on my moon. That's going to give you lots of wisdom, of great ability to see the big picture. It's like the third eye, kind of like augmented Mercury. So like, yeah, I mean, it's trying your Mercury, which is really good for intelligence, combining like the higher mind, the kind of like cognitive process with like the third eye vision. So yeah, like one can really speak well and be the peacemaker and all that in the material world, and the other one can be kind of like more big picture, philosophical, really a big defender of the truth, a seeker of the truth. And it also can make someone a very good counselor, or someone who's really, really good with one-on-one close partnerships, and who wants to communicate a lot through their partnerships. But they can also have difficulty sharing the deep, deep feelings with intimate partners, which can be another thing with the lots of air. And on that note, I didn't really talk about like not so when you lack earth and you lack fire, um, you benefit from things like meditation with earth, having like a very like going towards your north node, remember, which is like in Virgo. So it's like, going towards service also, like when you go towards service and in a healthy routine, on a spiritual, physical, everything level, it's really important. um and overcoming the tendency to daydream and feel overwhelmed, but and really like putting all that compassion that you've gained in past lives, and that you've with your South Node and Pisces, that comes easy to you, like to practical use. But you're really looking for that inner self-worth, right, in this lifetime. So, you'll definitely like to communicate a lot with partners. And then vested there, you'll definitely really like to work very hard. Um, like you'll be someone that is willing to work hard on keeping your relationships successful, and not allowing them to fail. So that's nice. And you'll be very focused on yeah, like one important person, like the Juno Capricorn prefers to just have that person, that's the rock that they can depend on. And that's that. They don't really need to like, yeah. But then Vesta and Sag, you definitely, and then descendant and Sag, like, there's also like a part of you that wants someone who can really bring you, like, you can really like be in touch with on that intellectual level. I already talked about that, right? But like also like higher wisdom, who can maybe it could be someone from a different culture, perhaps, right? um and yeah, just the ability to like with Vesta there, which is like a funner Saturn. It's like just being in Sag, like, being able to relentlessly work on anything that you have a really strong, like, kind of ideological, philosophical, attachment to. So yeah, it's a nice one. I think part of fortune on your midheaven in Aquarius is interesting. Go out this door. So, and did you clean downstairs? You cleaned the table area, the one you play the card game at. You moved it? Okay. Okay, so your part of fortune on the midheaven is basically like when you're in your flow. Wait, are you going out? Okay, so when you're in your flow, sorry about that. When you're in your flow state, your highest state, it's like when you're like really giving back to, like, everything I said about your moon, right? Having like this energy, you want to really contribute to humanity, and having a North Node in Virgo, I didn't really talk about that much before, but like it is true that North Nodes in Virgo, like they might have been and have a past like tendency of being this very, very like empathetic person, with all these dreams of how to make the world better, blah blah blah. But then they haven't. They can sometimes create this energy of like, oh, it's all too much. So it's like, it's interesting. It's like about meeting your own emotional needs. but then also in like yeah, kind of being your own metaphorical mother in this lifetime, but also just being, taking your dreams and putting them into reality, right? So anyways, let's just take a look at this. But yeah, when you're doing that, that's when you're experiencing like the greatest joy. Okay, so we already saw that. So I think I already went over everything. Oh, and White Moon Selena is helping you out because it's also conjunct Venus. So not as close as Serpentis, but that is about spiritual protection. So that's kind of saying that like even though like love relationships can bring a lot of messiness potentially, you also have a level of protection over that area, especially creativity. So that could be a great outlet for you, especially with your fifth house sun. So you need to watch out to not ruffle feathers too much, because there is potential for enemies. Nemesis on Saturn, I think that like it can just it's just better to play to kind of be in that Libra role and really kind of think things through um when it comes to um just like because like there is the potential for being over the top with this chart. So to really not like do that, to really be more chill, more thoughtful before making any like massive decision. Um Not get yourself in trouble, which the Scorpio parts of your chart can really, really do. So what's this? Okay. So Kama is related to sex. It's very, very sexual asteroid and it's on your is on your Venus, yeah? Yeah. No, you have nymph on your Venus. So nymph is also very, very sexual nympho. I mean, a lot of the asteroids, it's kind of easy to understand. So to have comma and then Sappho on your Mercury, it just adds kind of an erotic energy, right? Um, so yeah, it makes one like really want to talk a lot about sex. Um, and verbal seduction. Seduction can start at it can make one have a very seductive voice and just kind of a seductive mind, like like kind of sexy energy with like the communication and the thought process. Um, let's see this. So with nymph, um, it definitely makes one very like kind of mysterious and raw in terms of like yeah, intense kind of passionate lover. And it can be overbearing to some people, right? It can kind of create like a very like very dark kind of beauty, like vampire vibes, but like the sex can create like a connection that cannot be like it's just like a very deep, deep connection that can be created through that, right? Um, so I think it's important when you have nymph you know, in that in that position, to not allow it to kind of be a source of shame. Like I just think that like things like tantra, you know, could be very interesting for you. And trust me, I don't like I feel uncomfortable talking about like sexual stuff like in these readings, but you know, when it comes up, it comes up. You know. And I purposely don't look at any like it's kind of one of my things that I don't look at any photos, or I don't go on the profile of the person. Like I literally have no idea what you look like, anything about you, just your birth information. And then after I finish the reading, then I'll like actually like, you know, obviously send you and maybe like take a glance at your profile if it's not private, stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of the overall energy, I would say. I don't really think I'm missing anything. One, one sec. Well, I guess Sappho I should talk about more, which was on your Mercury as well. How many degrees though? It's like a degree off. So yeah, Sappho is very interesting. It's like kind of hidden talents in the art. Um and you know, it's very, very poetic. It's sexual freedom also. The freedom to express one's sexuality and the right to act sensually as one chooses is ruled by this, right? So it's like it's really linked to like one's feminine side. So how we connect words with sexuality. So like you could be someone who like is like a erotic novel writer. Um But like to have Sappho on your Mercury, which is your words, gives you amazing poetic abilities that can captivate others, especially women, right? And also Sappho rules strong friendship. So it can kind of, yeah, talk about that too. So you'd be very, very, very connected with your friends. Um, very, very prominent when it comes to, you know, poetry, that kind of energy, creativity. And you know, also just like how you are with expressing your true sexual self. So it goes back to like, you know, like really being able to attract through your words, you know. So yeah, let's see. That's it. How long did I go? Clock? Oh, 1:30. Under 1:30, I'll take it. I would have been happy if it said 1:15, but trying to get better. Anyways, very, very, very interesting how it all kind of comes together. Lots of different messages. So last thing I'll say is what nearly every single person does, unless there's like a financial barrier, is that they get the reading and you know, it's obviously lots of information. So take your time. You already had the follow-up session, which you know you can use whenever. But what nearly everyone does after receiving this is that they already have the follow-up and they get the current astrology reading. So usually I charge 380 for that. But in your case, I would charge 250. And what would happen is that we would set a time and date in the not too distant future, only like, you know, it could be like in 2 weeks, or you know, it could be the next date I have basically, right? Um, although I'm going to Amsterdam for 3 days, that's nothing. Um, And yeah, basically the first hour is the follow up. It has everything to do with this, your natal chart, kind of comparing your lived experience with everything we talked about today, or I talked about today. And then we move seamlessly into the current astrology, where I use all of my different predictive astrology techniques. I actually changed the name to current astrology / spiritual alignment, because it's way, way more. I'm a mystic. I'm not just an astrologer, you know? I have 2 masters in psychology. So it's usually a 3-hour reading. Sometimes it goes over, you know, let's call it 3 hours, kind of the baseline. And yeah, it's amazing. And I love doing those. I love connecting. And I feel like everyone feels like extremely spiritually aligned after that. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. And yeah, later. Peace. And